In football, there's nothing quite like a city rivalry. Manchester has its red and blue war. Milan has its iconic San Siro split between AC and Inter. But when it comes to the English capital, things get even more chaotic in the debate for the biggest London club. Because London isn't just a two-club city, it's a battleground. From north to west, east to south, the city is filled to the brim with professional football clubs. It's home to more top-flight teams than any other city in Europe. You've got historic giants, big money takeovers, fairy tale underdogs, and noisy neighbours all fighting for pride in the capital. Even teams like Fulham and Brentford are punching above their weight, steadily climbing the Premier League ladder and earning the respect of neutrals. West Ham have shown glimpses of brilliance, especially with their recent UEFA Conference League win. Crystal Palace quietly go about their business, always good enough to stay up and quite flashy enough to challenge for more. And since he has joined, Oliver Glasner seems likely to help change their fortune soon. But when it comes to who really owns London, it almost always boils down to three teams: Arsenal, Chelsea, and Tottenham Hotspur. There's no doubt that each one of them has a fan base ready to die on the hill that their club is the biggest. So in this video, we're diving deep. Trophies, fan bases, global reach, historical relevance, financial muscle, you name it. We're not just throwing names around, we're trying to figure out once and for all who truly stands tallest in London. So with a blank slate, let's go alphabetically and briefly highlight each club's major bragging rights. The first round is first impressions. Let's start with Arsenal. If you grew up watching English football in the 90s or early 2000s, there was no question. Arsenal was widely considered the biggest club in London and perhaps the best team in England. With roots stretching back to 1886, they are steeped in history. They were one of the first London clubs to turn truly elite, the first to move into a world-class stadium in the Emirates, and the first to bring serious style and continental flair to English football under Arsene Wenger. And when you think about iconic Premier League moments, like Henry shrugging off defenders effortlessly, Bergkamp's silky touches, and the Invincibles going an entire league season unbeaten, Arsenal had an iconic presence in the prime Barclays Premier League era. They've won the most league titles among London clubs, 13 in total, including that invincible 2003-4 campaign. They've also lifted the FA Cup more than anyone else with 14 final wins. That's not just local dominance, that's national pedigree. And then there's their fan base. Arsenal's global support is massive. From Lagos to New Delhi, Bangkok to New York, you'll find Gunners fans everywhere. Even during their trophy drought from 2005 to 2014, the club's brand never really faded. That iconic red and white kit, that cannon crest, the drama, the chaos, the memes, Arsenal never stopped being relevant. And now, with Mikel Arteta leading a talented young squad back into the Champions League and almost challenging for titles again, there's a real feeling that the Gunners are back, not just as a top four side, but as the top club in London. But of course, dominance doesn't go unchallenged. Enter Chelsea. If Arsenal ruled the 90s and early 2000s, Chelsea came and kicked the door right after, and they haven't looked back since. Let's be honest, Roman Abramovich's 2003 takeover changed everything. With the Russian billionaire's deep pockets, Chelsea transformed almost overnight from a solid Premier League club to a global superpower. Big money signings rolled in: Drogba, Lampard, Essien, Robben, Cech. And suddenly, Chelsea were not just competing, they were winning everything possible. Premier Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups, and most importantly, 2 Champions League titles. That's a flex neither Arsenal nor Spurs can match. In fact, Chelsea is the only London club to have ever won the Champions League, first in 2012 and then again in 2021. That kind of European pedigree matters. It elevates a club from a local royalty to a global brand, and Chelsea made sure they followed through. Not just with trophies, but with marketing, global fan outreach, and building a reputation for being relentless. sack a manager, hire another, win silverware, rinse and repeat. Their global fan base has grown rapidly over the past 2 decades, especially amongst young fans who associate Chelsea with success, flair, and drama. Whether it's the old school Mourinho days or the modern day chaos under new ownership, Chelsea always have the cameras pointed at their direction. Even with the turbulence that followed Abramovich's departure and the rocky transition under the new owner's Blueco, Chelsea's brand remains massive. The signings are still coming, the expectations are still sky high, and they're still a team no one wants to face on a big night. So while Arsenal might claim to have the historical crown, Chelsea have built a modern empire, backed by trophies and European bragging rights. And then there's Spurs. Now, before some of you jump into the comments with, what have they won? Let's take a second to look at the bigger picture. Tottenham have always been one of England's most passionate clubs. Founded in 1882, they've got history, they've got tradition, they've got some of the most loyal fans in the world. And recently, they've invested heavily to finally turn potential into something tangible. Their new stadium is an architectural marvel, arguably the best football arena in the country right now. It's state of the art, it's massive, and it signals ambition. Spurs don't just want to be a part of the conversation, they want to eventually lead it. And over the past decade, they've had moments where it felt like they might just do it. Under Pochettino, they played some of the best football in Europe. They challenged for the title, reached a Champions League final in 2019, and regularly finished in the top 4. Even though they didn't lift major trophies during that time, they did earn a lot of newfound respect. Let's also not forget that Harry Kane, who is undoubtedly one of the greatest strikers in Premier League history, spent the majority of his career at Spurs. Alongside stars like Heung-min Son, the club has consistently been entertaining, competitive, and relevant. But here's the glaring issue. Trophies. Their last major silverware came way back in 2008 with a League Cup win. Since then, near misses and heartbreaks have become part of the Tottenham experience. And while the infrastructure is elite and the ambition is there, they haven't yet turned it into dominance. Still, they're not far away. With the right manager, the right chairman, a bit of consistency, and maybe a little luck too, Spurs could become one of the biggest clubs in London in the future. The foundation is certainly there. Since we're talking about Spurs, let's move on to the second round. When it comes to the question of who's the biggest club, the most obvious starting point is silverware. And this is where Arsenal fans often bring out the receipts. Arsenal have 13 league titles to their name and 14 FA Cups, both records among London clubs. That 2003-04 Invincible season still stands as one of the greatest achievements in English football history. No other English club has gone unbeaten through an entire top-flight season in the modern era. Add to that 2 League Cups and a host of Community Shields, and you get a cabinet that's pretty well stacked. Chelsea aren't far behind anymore. In some areas, they've pulled way ahead. Since 2000, they've dominated the domestic and European scene. They have 6 league titles, 8 FA Cups, 5 League Cups, 2 Champions League titles, 2 Europa League titles, a UEFA Super Cup, and a Club World Cup title. The difference? Recency and European pedigree. Chelsea's major success has come in the 21st century, during the global broadcast era. That means their wins have been seen by newer, younger fans around the world. Tottenham, unfortunately, is somewhat behind in this front. The trophies they've won haven't really come in the modern era, but that doesn't mean they haven't won silverware. They've won 2 league titles before the Premier League era. They've also won 8 FA Cups and 4 League Cups. It's only since 2008 that they've had no major trophies, but in terms of numbers, they have a decent amount to show. But a lack of modern silverware has made it difficult for Spurs to stake a claim as London's biggest club. So if we're going purely by silverware, Arsenal and Chelsea are neck and neck. It's between historical depth versus modern dominance. We can consider Tottenham to be in the chasing pack. Now let's talk about fans, because being the biggest club isn't just about trophies. It's about how many people you reach, how loud they are, and how far your name carries. Arsenal arguably have the most global widespread fan base among the 3. They've been building that international following since the Wenger era, when stars like Henry, Vieira, and Pires brought French flair to English football. Their early 2000s dominance coincided with the global rise of the Premier League. As a result, millions of fans in Asia, Africa, and the Americas grew up watching Arsenal. Their social media numbers are still massive. Arsenal shirts are sold worldwide. The club even features heavily in FIFA and EAFC. Chelsea has an even more recent global pull. Their double success in the Champions League earned them a flood of new fans. The glory hunter tag is often thrown around, but the truth is, people gravitate to winners, and Chelsea have been serial winners for 2 decades now. Tottenham has a much more growing fan base, but it's more domestic than global. If you drew a map of Spurs fans spread across the world, London and South Korea would light up like a firefly. Son has helped make a whole country support Spurs over the past decade. The club's Champions League run in 2019 boosted their global reach, but overall, Spurs still feel like they're playing catch-up when it comes to global popularity. So in the fan base race, Arsenal and Chelsea go toe-to-toe, one built on tradition and consistency, the other on recent glory and star power. Let's now talk about money, because truth be told, that's what fuels modern football. Chelsea, even after Abramovich, is still one of the richest clubs in the world. Under their new owners, they've spent insane amounts on transfers, trying to rebuild and rebrand the team for the future. Their squad is now packed with expensive young talent, and they're still aiming for top-tier European football. Arsenal were known for their self-sustaining model for the longest time. They built the Emirates Stadium in 2006 and tightened their wallets for over a decade, focusing on financial responsibility. But recently, that has changed. Since the Kroenkes took full control and backed Arteta to the hill, Arsenal have spent big, signing Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, and a few others for serious money. The ambition is clearly back. Tottenham are more cautious with spending, but credit where it's due, they built the best stadium in England. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is a beast. It hosts NFL games, concerts, and all kinds of events. Financially, it gives Spurs a long-term advantage because of revenue streams that many clubs envy. They also have a world-class training facility and a modern approach to club management. But their infamous chairman, Daniel Levy, is known to cut corners. If Spurs start backing up that infrastructure with trophies, they could become financially dominant. But for now, Arsenal and Chelsea remain bigger forces in terms of spending power and global pull. And finally, we arrive at the hardest thing to measure: cultural significance. Because sometimes being the biggest isn't just about how much you win or how many shirts you sell, it's about moments, it's about legacy, it's about how you shape the sport and stay in people's memories. Arsenal have that in abundance. They didn't just win under Wenger, they changed English football forever. They introduced new training methods, new diets, and a new way of playing. Their rivalry with Ferguson's United defined an era. Henry isn't just an Arsenal legend, he's a Premier League icon. Then there's Chelsea, who reshaped what a modern club could be. Their rise under Abramovich brought in a new age of owner-driven success. They became a blueprint for other clubs looking to break into the elite. Their Champions League wins are etched in football folklore, especially the emotional 2012 win. Spurs have had fewer iconic moments on the pitch, but culturally, they're still a huge part of English football. From the flair of the 1960s double-winning side to the magic of players like Glenn Hoddle and Gareth Bale, they've always played attractive football. That 2019 Champions League semi-final comeback against Ajax, one of the greatest games in recent history. Each club has left its mark, but in terms of cultural weight, Arsenal and Chelsea once again seem to lead the way. So after all this, who's the biggest club in London? If you're going by history, tradition, and global reach, Arsenal probably has the edge. Their legacy is deep, their fan base is massive, and with the way things are going under Arteta, the future looks bright again. But if you're going by recent success and European pedigree, Chelsea take the crown. 2 Champions Leagues, a trophy every other year, and a global brand built in the modern era. Now, if you're thinking about long-term infrastructure and untapped potential, Spurs could be sleeping giants. They've got the tools, they just need the trophies. So maybe the real answer is it depends on how you define biggest. But right now, if you had to pick one, it's probably a 2-horse race: Arsenal or Chelsea, the red side or the blue. So tell us who you think is the biggest club in London below. Bold shouts for Spurs are also welcome.